Hello guys, Mickey here, Hampshire Outdoors and Survival. So I'm just sort of sitting here doing some admin. I'm putting together my fire kit, resourcing that, because there's another planned challenge and adventure coming up. So I'm getting that organised. And I'm looking through comments and messages and things like that, and I got a message from somebody which actually broke my heart a little bit. And I don't know who the person is, I don't know how old they are, I don't know what they're doing for life. So really this video I'm going to put out there for them. There's somebody who's going through a very difficult time at the moment because they're being bullied and they're not sure how to deal with it, and they can't see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I thought I'd tell you my story. And this is true. This is how it happened. This is what made me who I am. And again, this is not me asking for sympathy. I'm not asking for any sort of reward, and I am definitely not forgiving other people. However, this is my story. So as a young man, I grew up in what a lot of people would see as an idyllic situation. It's a row of 12 cottages that were built in the early 1800s for farm workers, surrounded by woodland and farmland. And I had quite a connection in my childhood to the farm, and I had a great time having my adventures in the wood, and it would seem idyllic. There were a couple of other kids that lived in the same row of houses, but yeah, didn't always get on. Kids are kids, aren't they? So my first school that I went to, that I remember, was in Guildford. I won't say the name of the school or anything, don't cause them any grief, but bear in mind, this is way back in the early 70s. And I went to school there, and I was different to the other kids. All the other kids there were off of a housing estate where the school was. I was the strange one because I lived a way away. And obviously I didn't play with them in the evenings, and I didn't join in at weekends and things like that because I lived too far away and I was too busy doing my own thing. So that made me different. I made one friend that I can remember from when I was, I think, about 5 or 6 years old, whose name still sticks with me and I can still remember his face. So if you're out there, Adam Christmas, I never forgot you, mate. Okay? But he moved away when I was about that age, and it dropped me into a pit of people I didn't know, didn't get on with, didn't share interests with, and I was the outsider. So I was bullied, and the bullying lasted probably from the age of about 7 right through to when I left secondary school at 15, because again, when I went from the middle school to the secondary school, these same people transported across with me. And as you will do when you are full of testosterone and stupid and have no understanding of the world at all and are a bit ignorant, you and your mates being able to pick on somebody half your size, and I was half their size, I was a racist snake, I was very slight. Yeah, it's good for your ego. So they did. I got picked on every day, and I mean every day. One of their favourite things to do was to close their fists like that and wrap them across the top of my skull as hard as they could. There was a couple of times where I almost lost consciousness, things blurred out, pain was intense. Now, in the early days of that happening at secondary school, and that's where it really came to its worst, in the early days I became terrified. I was terrified to go to school. I was having incidents at home, misbehaving. I was kicking up, kicking off, couldn't concentrate on schoolwork, hid things, did everything I could to get out of school, including at one point, and I can remember it quite vividly, looking at my dad's tools and the workshop and trying to work out how I could break my leg. Because I'd read that if you broke your leg, you were off school for 16 weeks. And to me, 16 weeks away from the bullies would have been amazing. However, I didn't have the courage to go through with that. Right? Thank goodness for that. Now, it sounds like quite a depressing story, and it was. It was hellacious, and anybody that's going through that, you have my sympathy. Reach out to somebody you know that you can trust and speak to them. Get yourself some help. Get yourself moved away from that. It's not your fault. People are stupid and they're ignorant, especially when they're teenagers. And some of those teenagers never grow up and carry that stupidity into their adulthood. However, I digress. I left school at 15. I went into a factory. I worked there for, I think, about half a year. Then moved back to the West Country and spent time down there. And I progressed on through my life. But in the later part of my school life, I'd learned something that I've only come to realise now. And in some ways, although I'm loath to say it, I suppose I had, or I ought to give a little bit of credit to those bullies for making me who I am. Because later in life, as I had my adventures, as I went through various jobs and roles, some of which, turn people's toes, I'd learnt to deal with fear. I'd learnt how to manage it. I'd learnt how to use the adrenaline, the endorphins to my benefit. I'd learnt that when high stress situations occur, and I didn't understand this at first, but it's only in later life I've come to realise that's what it was. When I'm put into a high stress situation, be it stood on the door of a pub with several hundred people inside that have decided they're all going to go mental on a full moon and fight with one another, and I've got to deal with them, whether it's being confronted by somebody I'm not happy with or who's coming for me, whether it's walking into a room full of strangers and speaking, whether it's being put into a situation that is aggressive, dangerous, violent, I've got those bullies to thank, because so many times I found myself standing next to somebody else who's looked at me and gone, hell, I'm terrified. And they've looked to me as being brave. But it wasn't bravery, it was the knowledge of how to handle the fear. How to control the fear, not let it get the most of me, and how to adapt to the situation. And in life I've met many operators from various military units, top end. I've met many absolutely excellent and awesome doormen, police officers, firemen. I've met some guys that are real heroes, the guys that run towards shit when everybody else is running away. Some of the operators I've worked with, we should say, I've had the chance, we've talked over long hours, quiet nights and things like that, and we talk about our childhoods, what took us to where we are. And a lot of these people, when I speak to them, a lot of the best ones amongst them, are guys that went through exactly the same thing as me. Turns out they were the guy that was bullied at school. They were the guy that went through a difficult situation, maybe even bullied at home. Right? But that gave them a tool that they then used in later life. Now, a lot of these bullies I've come across later in life, and one or two of them didn't recognise me, and I was able to sit back, look at them and laugh, look at the condition of them and where their life had taken them, and think to myself, well, that's how it comes back to pay you back, eh, good old Carmen? Look at you sitting there, massively overweight, and I'm a tubby guy, massively overweight, no fitness, and oh, blimey, is that your missus? Yeah, henpecked and all the rest of it. And I think, how the mighty fell. Yeah. Other guys I've come across are still gobshites. The difference was, when they confronted me on the door, okay, and I suddenly reminded them of who I was, you see that glint of fear come into their eyes. Now, I would never bully them, but that moment of fear in their eyes, suddenly realising who they're confronting. Yeah, that was a bit of a reward. I did enjoy it. Maybe it was wrong of me to do so. So my message to this person out there is try and speak to people. Try and get some help from somebody you can trust. There are plenty of lines, phone numbers, organisations you can contact. Contact one of them and get yourself some help. Okay? If you don't feel you can speak to the teachers, if you don't feel you can speak to your parents or your family, speak to one of them. Okay? Get yourself some help. Don't be put in that situation. But also remember this. Later in life, you are probably going to be one of those heroes. Because unlike the bullies, you've learnt to manage that fear, and it's going to stand you in a good stead later in life. Okay? And my message to the bullies, you'll get what's coming to you. Karma pays you back. Yeah? She will pay you back one way or another. And also, have a think to yourself, are you a bully because you're a coward? Because you're too scared to actually confront things? Look around those friends of yours that cheer and egg you on. Right? How many of those are actually cowards? If you were stood alone, how would you feel then? And be honest with yourself. So that's my point to that. Okay? And I hope this helps. And if it doesn't, well, maybe it's just a bit of weight off my shoulders. Okay? Guys, I'm going to stick this out today for that person. Just to let them know they're not alone. Yeah? You're not alone. Or anybody that sees this that is in that sort of situation, you are not alone. Okay? Send me a comment if you need to talk. And as I always say, have a great day. Get outside. Enjoy yourself. Yeah? Love those you do. Forgive those you don't. And peace and light be upon you all. This is Mickey, Hampshire Outdoors and Survival. Wishing you a good one. Mickey out.